Good morning, Susan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. I had a little bit of a uh, strenuous workout on Friday, learning to use machines at the rec center, and so moving a little slow today. Getting better though. Yesterday was not so good, but yeah,
Yeah.
doing good.
Well, hopefully you can just sit here and chat with me because that
Yes.
doesn't take a lot of. I actually just came in from shoveling because we had our first snowfall, which is why I look kind of the way I do this morning. We had all of these dire warnings about essentially the sky is falling, and it did actually in some areas, but we have a lot of lake effect snow, which is this tiny band, so it just depends where you are. But I went out this morning and had about 10 inches on my steps. So
Wow. Yeah.
I did it once and then I had to go do it again because it's still falling. So now I'm sitting here with my tea and my new favorite water bottle.
Oh, cool. Look at that.
Can you
Don't-
read that?
Yeah. Don't let idiots ruin your day. Nice. And it has pretty flowers on it.
It has pretty flowers on it.
That's fun.
I know, I know. It's very weird. I feel like I haven't seen you in quite some time when we literally record this every month and I talk to you in between. But for whatever reason, it feels like it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, you've been traveling all over the world. Well, not world, but country. You went out west, I think, and you also did this. What was the digital first? Is that what it's called? What?
Yeah, visual first.
Oh,
So that
visual.
is a conference in San Francisco, which is a little bit tangential to what we do. It's a whole bunch of companies, entrepreneurs, people who really want to launch their own apps, people who want their apps to be acquired, but all in the photo video space. So I got a very interesting look at what is coming down the line. And what I actually thought was fascinating is that there was obviously a lot of emphasis on AI, as you would expect. So, a lot of apps that will help you create cool new things. So, we were all playing with them while we were there. But this is the second time I've been to this conference. And I didn't go last year, but I remember looking at the talks. And this year, there was a little bit of a switch, and there was also a focus on authenticity. And in the face of all this creation from AI, how do you know what's real? Was one question. And the second was, is this bubble going to burst a bit because people are starting to crave what is real and what is messy? So it was really interesting, a really interesting juxtaposition because there was literally a panel on, look, I can turn myself into Harry Potter and fly across the Antarctic playing with penguins, to here is somebody just sitting on their porch reading a book, and that is all they are. So it was fascinating.
Well, I've been keeping my eye on AI, and whenever I, uh, review some of the people's videos that I follow, especially when it comes to photo restoration or whatever, because that's
Yeah.
where I get a lot of use out of AI for me personally. But there's also, programs that are incorporating AI left and right now that allow you to create the images like, has been for a while, but now it's more realistic videos, as you say.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point where if you create a avatar of yourself and create a video from that avatar, it's interesting if your children can figure out if that's an actual picture of you or a AI generated picture.
Mhm.
Yeah, because of the
My kids can. Absolutely. So I was playing with a lot of these apps, and some of them were in beta. So there were more ideas than the finished product, but some of
okay,
them were finished and on the market and very polished.
yeah,
And so as each one would come, we could all test it out. They give us a little bit of a code where we can go in and give it a test. And I made a few of them and sent them to the family.
yeah,
And I mean, obviously they knew that it wasn't me because whatever, but they were very quick to point out all the flaws. But
yeah.
I don't know how long that is going to last because the technology is just getting so much better at an incredible rate.
Yes.
So my guess is within, I'm not sure how, maybe a year, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, it will be very hard to tell them apart, which is very scary to me because that means anybody could take my likeness and, I don't know, make a video of me robbing a bank and then I get arrested. I don't know. I mean, I don't know
Well,
what's going to happen with this, but there was also
yeah,
actually a panel on different ways to see what the digital signature is
yeah,
on these items. It's just they're not available for the standard you and me yet. But there
right.
are ways that are being developed where you can literally overlay a website or overlay like a software on a website and see how that video is generated. So I am hoping we get more of that and more of it is built in because I love AI for things like photo restoration where you're trying to you have a ripped you're really good at this, Susan, but you have a ripped photo and you want to be able to piece it back together without it looking like Frankenstein. I'm all for that, but I am 1,000% against somebody taking an image and using it in a different way. I find it creepy.
Yeah,
I don't like the ones where people take a photo and turn it into a moving video. I find that very disturbing. So who knows? Who knows? But
yeah.
it was a really interesting conference. I got to see my cousin and my brother-in-law, and I was also out in Washington first for Parents Weekend
Oh,
for my
fun.
son,
Yep.
which is so it was great. It was great.
Well, when you talk about photo restoration, here's one that you may have seen me talk about before, but I'm going to share my screen here. So this had been in their collection for a while, and I don't know why, but there was a lot of glue on it. And so what I did was try to apply some of my learning, my training, and I soaked it and was able to get a lot of the glue off of the important pieces or parts of the image, which is the faces and the body. And then I tried to hand restore this using the tools in Photoshop, and I never quite.
Can I stop you there for a sec? I just want to jump in, and people don't realize that when you've got gunk on photos like that, you can actually put them in water
Yeah,
sometimes to get it off, or freeze them will
yeah,
also sometimes work. Scan it first, just in case.
which is
But
what
I
I
just
did.
wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
So this is the
good.
original. Yep.
Yeah.
And you don't want to you don't want to soak it for a long time. You have to keep your eye on it. So it's not something you put in a tub and walk away. So I soaked it for a little while and was able to remove some of the gunk, but not from all areas. And my restoration work just I was never pleased with it. So I hung on to it. And this is another reason why I tell people after you get things digitized and they say they just want to throw it all away, if you've got the space to keep it, don't throw it away. The way technology changes over the years, if I had gotten rid of the prints that I scanned in the early 2000s, they would never be at the high quality that I can scan now. So, just another food for thought there.
If you have the space,
If you have the
I'll
space,
put it
no,
there. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
the caveat. Um, but because some people's collections are so large, it's space prohibitive to maybe keep them now. If they've downsized.
Yeah.
So. But anyway, so I worked on this image, and for those that are listening only, you may want to hop out to YouTube at some point and just take a look at the image. But it's brown, almost kind of transparent glue-like substance that's all over this photo of my parents on their wedding day. So here it is. I've been throwing it at AI every chance I get. And this latest version from Nano Banana in Photoshop Beta, now that is released in the latest version
Mhm.
2025 of Photoshop. This is what it did.
It's amazing. See, this is where I think AI really shines.
Yes.
This, I mean, I'm sure you would have gotten it eventually using more conventional tools, but I mean, this is incredible.
Yeah. The transformation. Now you can see that this does have some color to it, like their
Yeah.
skin tone. And what the AI gave me was a black and white version, which is perfectly acceptable. And now if I wanted to, I could, sharpen it up because, back in the day, the sharpness of images was not like what you see today. We're so spoiled today that when we look at old stuff, we're not happy with it. And we have to understand the medium in which it was created and the tools that were used and the hardware and stuff. So, this is not a great clear shot, but I can certainly work on that now as well in AI. But this has been
Yeah.
so transformative. I mean, I was blown away. So yeah, I the technology today, if you can learn it to help yourself or your clients, I highly suggest it because it's amazing. So
Yeah.
that's my show and tell.
Certainly, it's certainly a lot easier than
Yeah.
it used to be. I mean, it's not exactly one click,
No.
but it's much closer
Yes.
to that.
And,
I mean, it's incredible.
and you have to know how to prompt. So
Yeah.
it's the prompting, yeah, what to select and how to prompt, but it is amazing. So yeah, I was very happy with that.
Yeah, I wish I had old photos to restore of my own, but since my family didn't keep any, I don't. So that's not really a thing for me, although I get client photos,
Yeah.
obviously. I've had a few, some of the ones I've had recently, for whatever reason, I get a bunch from World War II and the Holocaust, and those are interesting to work on for a variety of reasons, but we've been restoring some of those and it's incredible. That is like I said, that is one use of AI that I can fully get behind. I
Absolutely.
don't like when it creates a new reality. That to me is a problem. For me, authenticity is incredibly important. So when I see, I don't know, when I see photos that are, coming to life by turning a photo into a video, I think it's creepy.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I also think like I don't tend to sharpen up very old photos. I have no issue doing it, and I totally understand why people want to, but it's kind of like a video that's recorded on VHS. When we convert them, they look like videos from the 80s, and
exactly.
they are videos from the 80s. So I tend to prefer that they stay looking like videos from the 80s, but I mean there are ways to make them much sharper. The cameras just weren't as good
Right.
back then, and who knows what we'll be looking at in 10 years.
Right.
I mean,
Well, with all its warts and bumps and everything, those old videos are, a moment in time.
yeah.
And when you play it on a high definition TV with high resolution, it forces you to look at those bumps and warts,
Yeah.
a lot more. And so you
Yeah.
sort of have to realize it's kind of like looking at a black and white film with no sound.
Yeah.
That's just, you know, that's just how it was back then. So, yeah.
I know. It's
But
it's interesting. It's really interesting.
well, and just for people's knowledge, October was a month where they weren't charging you for these AI generations, and now they are. So,
Yeah.
depending on your plan that you have, just know that every time you ask it to generate something using some of these tools, your account will be credited or debited, whatever,
Debited. Yeah.
with these credits. And so one generation could be 5 credits, and one could be 10 credits that they'll be charging you
Yeah.
against your account. So I have a pro account, and so I think I get 4,000 credits a month. And to me, I am not sure how long that's going to last with all the restorations I do. So we'll just have to see. But I'm sure they'll let you buy more credits.
Oh, you can buy as many as you want.
Right. So today we're going to do something fun. We're going to play Jeopardy.
Doing something a little bit different. We do not have a guest for today because we're getting towards the end of the year and schedules are tight. And honestly, we just sort of dropped the ball just a tad. So we don't have a guest for today. So we are going to we're going to do something a little different. We are going to play photo organizing Jeopardy.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. So we both get people that ask us questions all the time on pretty much every photo organizing, video conversion, every topic you can possibly imagine. We also get people who send in questions to the show, which we love. Keep doing that. So we now have this gigantic list and thought it would be fun to go through and answer some of them Jeopardy style.
Yeah. So tell us how this is going to work.
Susan's like, tell us how it's going to work because this was your idea. That's really what you're saying, right? Okay. So what we're going to do, it's pretty simple. We don't have a board. because that would have taken a while. But we have a bunch of categories. Actually, I'll read off the categories right now of questions that we get. So general photo organizing questions, questions related to digital photo organizing, questions related to what do I do with my prints, print photo organizing, some questions about scanning and that kind of thing. And then we have a surprise me category with questions that sort of pop up that didn't fit any of those other categories. So one of us we'll say Susan's going to start. So Susan is going to pick a category and I am going to pick, it's a little bit opposite of Jeopardy, I guess. I am going to pick a question from
Yep.
that category. And she is going to give us what her thoughts on the answer, and then we'll discuss for a little bit and we'll move on to the next one. So you'll have
All
to
right.
let us know if you actually like this format because we just made it up. And
Well,
that's
it's
what we do
something
here.
different, and we're going to jump all around. So,
We are.
so put your seatbelts on. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So let's
Okay.
do general photo organizing as a category.
Okay. General photo organizing. All right. Let's see. What should I give her? Okay. How about we're going to start with something that we literally get from every single person that contacts either one of us, which is any tips for making photo organizing feel less overwhelming?
Yes, that is a good question. One of the things I tell my clients is when you're looking at your stuff, you're going to go down memory lane. And so when you are, the first thing to do with any of your photos that we're going to talk about physical media here, not digital, is to gather it all into one place so that you know what you have. And if you yourself are going to be doing the physical organizing, what I like to do is take them out of the tubs and all the envelopes that you might have. And I'm not talking the development envelopes. You want to leave those because there may be clues there. But I'm talking about, I had a client that had brought me a suitcase with a bunch of large manila envelopes of photos. So I would deal with one envelope at a time and begin my organizing on a nice big table and flip it over and only do a little bit at a time. Because if you start going down memory lane, in my opinion, that's just going to hold you up. And so you kind of just want to do this like it's you're on an assembly line and you're just resizing, you're flipping over the photos and putting them into batches based on size and stick them in a cheap sorting box. I get my boxes from Michael's, and I know that each box holds about 1,000 or 1,200 photos. And then I put a batch card to try and tell me, oh, I think this is from the 50s. Because if I'm looking at my parents' stuff, I'd have to look at some of the older dates. So, maybe this batch is from the 50s based on the size and what they look like and how old the people are. And just do one shoebox a week or, one shoebox a month, whatever your schedule is. But it can be done. And it's, if you want to make it easier and hire somebody like Allison or I, then, what we can do is we can get them in those sorting boxes for you before we scan them, and you can see what your collection looks like, and you can then determine, what part of that collection you want scanned. Not everybody wants everything, and so that's how I would approach it.
I do very similar. I would just add, if you have space in your house and you have a big table or one of those nice folding tables from Costco, I have a few of those. If you have space to just leave that table up for a while,
Yes.
so that you can just leave stuff out. I find that is super helpful. It also might be helpful to set a timer, right? Say, it makes it less overwhelming if you're looking at a big, massive group of photos. You're thinking, I am just never going to get through this. So, if you have an hour, I would say take an hour and just do that.
Small chunks.
Yeah, and then you had some tips that go a little, that get a little bit more specific. I want to expand on. One of the things that we both do is often sort by size initially. And just to make sure why people understand that is that often, if you think about how print photos were returned back to you when you took them, is they were in these envelopes and they would have been all the same size. They would have had the same stamp on the back in terms of the paper, or sometimes when you're lucky, there's a timestamp on the back. But if you start by size, a lot of times you can get groups of photos together that you might not necessarily have known go together. And they still might not. It's not like all your 4x6s go together. But when you flip that stack over and start sorting from the front, you're already starting with a smaller group than you initially went with. You know, you'll immediately find, oh, there's a whole bunch of maybe black and white square, roughly 3x3 or 4x4. And by also flipping them over and sorting by size, you are not getting distracted by memory lane
Right.
too. So I find that super helpful. And then the other thing I would say is look for dates. That's the other thing I do. I will sort by size first, and then I will go through each one of those stacks and look for dates, either on the back or on the front, although just beware that the dates on the front are not always correct. You know, if somebody didn't change their date on their camera or something.
Some of them are on the front and they're in the bottom corner,
Yeah.
and they're development stamps. So it didn't require you as the end user to make sure your digital camera had the right date. But the ones that were printed on the front, that did call up the date of the camera. So just beware, those could be wrong if they didn't keep that up to date. But the development stamps could be Kodak or Fuji or any of those. And through the years, that manufacturer stamp also changes. And so there's different places on the internet where you can go and see when was that stamp popular. Like when we had the Olympics, then you'll see the Olympics on the back, and that'll tell you roughly when it was printed, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I would also say, this will be my last one, and then we'll go on, and then you'll ask me, or you'll ask me a question. I would also say, think about how accurate do you need to be for you. So I think people can get bogged down sometimes thinking, was this 1991 or 1992? And think to yourself, does it matter? You know, if you graduated or somebody graduated in 1992, it might matter. But if it's, you know, kids playing outside in the yard or in the woods, does it matter? Not generally. So give yourself some grace and say, you know what? I think this is early 90s, and just leave it at that.
And that is a great tip. And I'll just say one last thing. Once they're digitized and they're all in your software, then you can begin to see the changes in how someone looks, and you might be able to flip them around digitally once they're digitized and say, oh yeah, this really is 1990, not 91 or 92.
Yeah.
So the print phase of organizing is not where you get, you know, into the weeds about figuring out what year it is. You just want to get close.
Yeah. And you just want to get it done.
Yes, you
want to get it done before your dog runs through the living room and knocks over that table.
Oh.
So, not speaking from personal experience or anything.
Okay, good. I was worried. All right, pick a subject. You're next.
Okay, let's see, what have we got here? Well, that was a lot about print. So I'm going to pick digital. I will take digital, Susan, for 500.
Okay. I'm going to get this one to you. Number 4. I have photos in Google Photos, iCloud, Dropbox, and my phone. How do I get them all in one place?
Ah, yes, I've never heard that question before.
Sure.
I think we get that question on the daily.
On the daily. Exactly.
On the daily. But that is because it is a very good question, because we are so scattered now. You know, when we only had print photos, they would be in a box or maybe 2 boxes, you know, around, and it's quite easy to gather them. You literally just pick them up and put them all in the same place. But now we end up with, I mean, even I do. I've got an iPhone, so all of my photos, as soon as I take them, go into Apple. I also have some Google Photos because over the years, people shared them with me that way, or I shared them that way. because you could share a Google album and it didn't matter what kind of phone anybody had. You may also have them in Dropbox for a variety of reasons, or Shutterfly, or like all the places. They could be everywhere. So the first thing, actually, how do I get them all in one place? I think you need to decide first, what is that place going to be? That is one of your first decision points. Because if you, because the actual answer to that question is initially you have to download them from all of those places. But if you are an iPhone user, and you want to keep all of your photos in Apple Photos, there's no need to download all of your Apple Photos out of Apple Photos just so that you can put them back in. So I'm going to pretend for the purposes of this question that we are staying in maybe in Apple Photos. And then the first thing is first identify where all these places are. Think about, I actually just published a blog on that this month, just a checklist of where your digital photos might be hiding, because there are a lot of different services out there that could have it. Even CVS, if you've ever printed there,
or Walgreens or Costco.
Walgreens, yeah,
Well,
and you think not anymore. Costco went over to Shutterfly, so they're still there. And those I wouldn't necessarily. Well, I'll come back to that one. So think about where everything is and make yourself a list so that you can check it off as you do each one. And then go to each one of those sources and figure out how it is that what you need to do to download. So Google Photos, for example, has a thing called Google Takeout where you can request all of your photos all in one go or in a series of zip files. Apple actually has something similar. Dropbox is pretty easy to download. So once you figured that out, I would say get yourself an external drive. If your computer, you really need to do this on a computer, not on your phone. Not a tablet. I mean, you can try, but you'll create a big old mess. So get yourself an external drive, or if your computer has a lot of space, create a folder on that called Photo Hub. And then if you're talking about, gathering all your Google Photos, make a folder called Google Photos with the date that you were requesting the download. And then go to Google, request your download. You'll get an email that says they're ready. And then you can just download them right into that folder. Do the same for, what else is on that list? Dropbox, for Shutterfly, for all the different things. And that is how you start. And like I said, you really need to figure out where you're going to put it all, because you don't need to download from that place. And then there's some more, obviously some other steps you're going to go from there. But I think that is really the starting place. It's just like the physical photos, Susan, that you were mentioning, is get them all together in one spot so you can see what you have.
Yeah.
And then
it's
go
sort of the
there.
Analogy of when they're strewn across all the different platforms that you could save them. It's, the same analogy is they're just thrown in a big tub.
Yeah.
And
only you can't see them as well.
Yeah. And you have no idea of how many you have. So gathering them into one place is the first step.
Yeah. And I will say, I would start with the big ones, start with the ones where you have the most stuff, because there are places you may not actually need to gather from. If you've already downloaded from the big places and then you go on Shutterfly and you take a look at what's there and you realize, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure I already have all these because my MO was just to put a few up there to print.
Yeah.
Then you might not need to download them. And I can tell you from experience, downloading from these other sites can be a royal pain in the neck. Dropbox is easy. Google's easy. Apple is easy. But OneDrive is easy. But places like Shutterfly, CVS, Walgreens, those are not easy. They're going to take you forever. So think about your return on investment or the diminishing returns, and leave those ones for last.
Exactly. All right. I will take scanning and digitizing.
Okay, let's see what we've got here. I should have had, we should have had like one of those virtual number generator things.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I'll just pick one. Do I need to scan both the front and the back of a photo?
Great question. So when I work with my clients, I ask them about capturing the details if there's something written on the back of their images. And if they say yes, they want to keep that rather than me just photographing it to capture the words. it's kind of different if they want me to capture it and keep it. But I do scan it. I scan a lot of the backs if there's information on it that I can gather that will help me date them. Otherwise, it's up to the client if they want me to scan the back that, they want to keep their mother's handwriting or, their brother's handwriting or whatever's on the back. So if it's just a regular stamp that doesn't provide any details to help me date a photo, then I don't scan the back.
Mhm. And I would say for DIYers out there, it's totally up to you. But what I would do is take a look. And if there's, like Susan said, if there's many photos, there's nothing on the back. There's nothing. So those you can automatically, you don't need to scan those. But I will, like if it was my own personal collection, if I had some photos with a grandmother's handwriting, a mom's handwriting, I'll keep some of those because that's information that doesn't come from anywhere else. That handwriting is just as important as the photo. And if there's dates, I wouldn't necessarily scan the back. It kind of depends on how you're doing the scanning if you're doing it yourself. But you definitely want to capture that date. So if you have a group of photos from 1991, you don't need to scan those backs if that's all that it's telling you. Just make the folder called 1991 and deal with the dates later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. And the other thing I would say is if you are scanning the back, make sure that you are naming these files A and B or -1, -2 or something to signify that those two photos go together.
Right.
Because they will get jumbled. All photo organizing software now is a database, right? Yeah. So if you're searching or whatever, they could get easily jumbled. But if the file name has something that signifies they go together, then you can always find that and put it back. And I actually will do that. I don't tend to sequentially number fronts and backs. I wouldn't say make the front the front 1 and the back 2, because I find that those can still get lost. So I tend to do 1-1, 1-2, or 1A, 1B, something like that, so that they're much easier to find.
Well, many computer programs, if you were to copy a photo into an area that that same file name exists, your system will automatically put in parentheses a 1 or -1 to indicate it's another copy. So just indicating 1 or -1 or 2 would not necessarily stick moving forward. Like that could cause you problems. But to your point, if you add an A or B, that is not something the computer would label a duplicate.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're safer with A or B. And if you name it the same, so the front part is image 123-A, image 123-B, then they're staying together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually never had a problem with the dash. So
no,
I'm not sure.
not
I have seen the parentheses. I have seen the computers will do like copy. They'll literally put parentheses around the word copy if there's a duplicate, or they will do parentheses 1. And you should be changing all of those anyway, because you shouldn't use parentheses in file names. But the point is to have a naming convention where you can find the front, have the front and the back together. Because you can in any software you can sort by file name, and that will help you.
Absolutely. All right, what's your category?
Okay, I'm going to take the surprise me category.
Ooh. All right.
Surprise me in a good way.
Let's see. All right. Since we were already talking about naming, I'm going to give you what's a good system for naming so I can actually find things later.
That is an extremely important question, I will say. Because what happens there's two different parts to that question. If you have photos that originate digitally, you're taking them on your iPhone, you're taking them on your Android phone, they will get a jumbled mass of file name that makes no sense. That's one part. If you are scanning photos, then they're going to end up, like if you sent them to a big box scanner or something like that, they might end up image 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Neither of those things are useful at all. So For me, the best system and what I do with my own photos, what I do with client photos is I start with the date as close as I can. And again, sometimes that date will be 2025-11-10, right? November 10th, 2025. Sometimes that date might just be 2025. Or sometimes that date might be 1950s. Like, don't overthink it. You don't need to have an actual, like, to the day date.
Specific year, you mean?
Yeah. So I start with that and I use dashes since we'll get real specific. I say 2025-11-10, and then I always do an underscore to separate the date from what comes next. And then when I can, I put some kind of very, very brief subject. Like it literally could be a location. So when I go birding, this is how I name all my photos. It would be, Susan's laughing. Don't laugh.
I
Don't laugh.
I'm smiling because I love the detail. No, I'm not
I
laughing.
get asked about the birding all the time. So the date, underscore, and then the location that I took the photo, and then just a sequence number. That's how I name my birding photos. If it's an event, so a wedding, it might be the date underscore, Susan and Allison wedding. And then underscore again. And I like the underscores because I find it easier to read the file name. That's why I use them. But I don't get super specific. I don't label photos Susan, like date, Susan, Allison at the park picking daisies too much.
Right.
Because you can use captions and keywords and AI to find the picking daisies part, and it will take you forever if you individually name every photo by the people or all the things happening. You don't need to do that.
Right.
So that's what I do. And then I avoid characters other than, say, a dash or an underscore. I never use an asterisk, an exclamation point, parentheses. These are the common ones that I see.
I see apostrophes.
I hate apostrophes.
Yeah, or commas.
Yeah, and the reason, commas, I see less commas. I see a lot of apostrophes. And the reason is it's probably a little bit less important than it used to be, but those extra characters do not generally play well with your system, especially Windows. I think they work a little better on Mac, but if you don't need them. So why take the chance? I have had a couple clients where their photo file names they were all corrupted. And some of the photos got corrupted because the file names corrupted the file itself.
Right.
So why go there? So keep it simple. Create a system for yourself. So this is the system that I use, is what I've laid out and what I use on all of my clients. But if you're doing it for yourself, just write it down initially. What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? Write it down so that you'll be consistent across all of your photos.
Well, it's the same approach you should take when you use keywords, right? You want to have a taxonomy, a structured list that you follow. So same with file names. Great.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take print.
Print. Okay, let's see. Oh, I like this one. I don't have much of a budget because we get this one all the time too. I don't have much of a budget, but really want to scan and preserve my printed photos. What is a cheap way for me to do this?
Great question. So, early on, when you're trying to figure out what to do, the first thing is you have to understand quantity, like how much stuff you need to digitize. If you've got less than 2,000 prints, physical prints in your family, you may find that having someone else do it is actually less expensive than buying equipment that you don't have and doing it yourself, because there's going to be a learning curve. But if you've got a scanner already at home, and what I mean by that is a dedicated scanner. If you've got a 3-in-1 color printer, you might be able to do some scanning with that, lifting up the lid and putting it down and sending it to your computer. But you want to check the resolution on that printer because oftentimes it's not a dedicated photo scanner. But if you are looking for, a cheap way to do it, you could get a flatbed scanner for about $800. I think now is roughly the price of a nice one. And if you've got over 2,000 photos, I think the cost of a scanner at that point is going to resolve itself, meaning you could do this yourself just with time and having a good scanner. If they're in really good condition, meaning I like the photos from like the late 80s and 90s that they're all 4x6s. And they haven't been removed from a sticky album, so they're clean. There's nothing on the back. You could invest in an Epson Fast Photo, which is an auto feeder, not a flatbed. And those are even less. They're like 400, right? I think.
Something like that.
Yeah,
I
something
haven't
like
looked at.
that. But you want
I
to
do
look
think there are some flatbeds that are less too. Although my favorite one I don't believe is on the market anymore, which is the Epson 600.
600, right? I think
That,
now
yeah.
Epson's gotten rid of some of those other models, and that's why I went to 800 because I think the 800 or 850 Epson scanner is
Yeah.
about 7 or 800. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
look it up. And so it's a balance of how many photos you need to scan. Because investing in this equipment just to do one job like this may not be what you want to do, or
Mhm.
have the learning curve of everything that you need to learn to do it properly. So,
Yeah.
your other option would be to limit what you get scanned by a professional photo organizer. So, if you can do your physical organizing first and then know what you're having scanned, then you could batch it out based on your budget. So, if you've got a budget of, maybe $500 a month, you could bring a select number to someone and just keep doing that monthly, and eventually you'll get your project done. So either do it yourself or maybe limit what you have done with someone.
I'm going to throw in one other option, which is the apps that you can use to scan. So one of the things you need to consider is quality.
Yes.
And what do you actually need? And what do you need to preserve? Because I would rather have somebody, get terrible quality scans, but at least have that as a backup than nothing at all. So you have to consider if you do it yourself. The flatbed scanners do a really good job. The batch scanner, a little bit less. I don't think they're quite as good. Camera scanning would be the best and the most expensive because you need a professional to do it. But if you think about your purpose for scanning, if you want to scan print so that you can make a book that you are going to, print from some company, do not use your photo app on your phone. Don't use your phone camera and take the picture and stick in your camera roll and put that in your book. And don't use the photo scanning apps because when you print them, unless you're printing them really small, they're just not going to come out great. But if you have a situation where you need to do things quickly or you are worried about I had a client like this a few years ago who somebody that actually, yeah, I did a little work for her, but she was worried because she had this farmhouse, her mother's farmhouse in North Dakota, and she was going to visit, and mom had just tons of those big, heavy, the big 12 by 12, they're this fat albums. She was not going to be able to take them back with her, but she was worried that something was going to happen to those sitting in this old farmhouse. So I suggested a couple photo scanning apps for her. She went out and she did that. And these are not good enough to print in a book, but about a month after she returned, that farmhouse burned down.
Oh, no.
And had she not done that, she would have nothing.
Yeah.
So you really need to think about your purpose for scanning, your budget. I would say if you just need to get it done just for preservation's sake, you could get an app and quickly do it yourself. And then when you have time and you have the budget, do a better job. Looking on the screen, you're not going to tell a huge difference, but in terms of keeping something for future use, there is a very big difference between a phone app and a batch scanner and a flatbed and camera. But you really need to think about your purpose. I would rather, like I said, I'd rather have you get all of the lesser quality scans but not lose your stuff than hold on to it and wait
That's a
until
good
you have
point.
time to do it
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah. And I am just a stickler for quality, so those phone apps unfortunately don't
But if that's all you have,
yeah, they don't easily pop in my head, but I
yeah.
have been myself known when I travel and I go to a family's place and I see a framed photo or something that I don't have, I'll ask them, hey, can I take a picture of this or whatever? And
Yeah.
at least I've got a picture of it. Yeah.
I do that all the time because it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
That actually just reminded me. I just did that when I was out visiting my parents. I'm going to find this photo because it's really funny. I'm not sure if I did anything, moved it yet. But I was out visiting my parents and they had this photo on the wall. And this is just this is a terrible capture because I did realize after I took it, I already have it, but I'm going to share this if Susan, if you want to give
You
me
should
permission
you should have
here.
permission.
Okay, so get ready to laugh. Are you ready?
Wait, let me swallow my coffee. Okay.
Oh yeah, swallow your coffee.
I don't want to spray on my
Wait,
screen.
hold on, let me yeah. No, definitely don't want to spray. Oops, you don't want to spray on your screen. And I am just trying to let's see here. Okay. You don't want to spray on your screen. Are you ready?
Yes, go
And this
ahead.
is a terrible, like even a terrible picture of a picture. Okay. That is me
Oh my
doing
God.
ice climbing drills in high school. This picture was hanging on my parents' wall at my parents' house forever.
Oh
And
my
I was
gosh.
about to go back up and they told me to stop for a photo. And this was like forever ago. Right,
Oh
I'm in
my
high school.
gosh.
It's in the Northern Cascades in Washington. That's actually quite funny because my parents now live in Washington, and this picture was taken in the Cascades, and I grew up outside of Boston and Maine, so very funny. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it looks like you're hanging on for dear life.
I know, but that's one of the things that's so funny is because I wasn't. We had finished all our drills and they literally said I had put my axe away
Yeah.
because I didn't need it. I'm not that far from the top. So I didn't
Yeah.
need the axe to get up from that part. And they told me to, put the axe away and just hang there and they were going to take my picture. And so they did. And that's literally the only picture I have from that entire summer trip. So
Wow.
there it is. It's a little show and tell
It's
today.
summer, but you're doing a summer trip to go ice.
Oh yeah, ice climbing. You almost always, yeah, because you can't really do it in the winter. You can't even get to those spots
Oh, I
in the
see.
winter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it was funny. So, but there's a great example of, and that's even a terrible picture of a picture.
Right. Well, it's
But
offset and
yeah,
cockeyed.
it's off center because I didn't bother. I literally take that picture every time, and I already have it in my library in
Yeah.
a good scan. But I always think, oh wait, am I sure? Um, and I was going to send it to somebody
Oh,
while I was out there. But that's if that's the only picture or you're traveling or whatever, a phone snap is fine.
yes.
But if you want something that is going to last and be preserved for future generations, then definitely think about all of the things that Susan mentioned first.
Yeah, and it really is flexible. Is if you work with any photo manager, they'll work with you and your budget.
Yeah.
So it's just determining what quality you want, what's your purpose for this legacy, and go from there.
Yeah.
Everything is doable. You just have to, take it out in small chunks. All right, what's
Yeah.
your category?
All right. I think we should just do one or two more. I can't remember which of us started.
I did, I think.
You started with the answer.
I started with an answer doing any tips for making photo
Okay.
organizations.
So we'll end on me then, and I'm going to pick surprise me again. I like to be surprised. I live on the edge.
All right. Yes, we do. Let me see here.
Uh-oh. Is she going to give me a hard one? What's happening?
All right. How do I, or what do I do with all the photos my relatives text me or send me through group chats?
That is
So,
a really
and
good question.
yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, because we all get those. WhatsApp, texts, emails, all the things. So there's a couple things. So I would say from this point forward, from this date forward, when people send you things, in a text and a WhatsApp or wherever, if you actually want to keep them, then pretty much every program has a little download button that can send it right to your camera roll. So if I would say moving forward from today, if this is something you haven't dealt with, just click the little download button. It'll go right to your camera roll and it will be with everything else. The one caveat is if they're sending you something old from like the picture I just showed on the screen, and the date is going to be wrong and there's things you want to fix on it, you might want to create an album on your phone that literally just says fix me later and stick it in there. Or if you know what the things are already, I could fix that photo I just showed with a date. I would do that right away, because otherwise they're going to sit in your camera roll and get lost, and you won't be able to find it because the date will be wrong or something else. So that is what I would do if you are looking at things moving forward. Moving backwards is a little bit more difficult and time consuming. So there are apps that you can use, like iMazing can scroll through your texts on an iPhone and pull out all the photos, but you may not want them all. So, and you're going to end up with a lot of duplicates. So you have to think about what you actually want. The people that you text with the most on an iPhone, I think you can do this on an Android too. You can literally tap on their contact name and it will pull up all of the photos they've shared with you, like from the text screen. And I would just start going through and just discriminately saving the ones you actually want to your camera roll.
Well, and there's a time limit. Like with
Yeah.
WhatsApp and some of these apps, you have to be careful with that. If you don't save it right away, then you may have to ask the person to resend it to you if it's at a later date. Because
Yeah.
I've run into that with WhatsApp where there's an image out there that I forgot to grab and now it's not available. I'd have to ask the person to resend it. So just be aware
Yeah.
of that as well.
And also know that those photos that you're getting out of text and WhatsApp and email may not be full size. They may be these tiny little thumbnails that really aren't worth saving. And if that's the case, you might want to ask somebody to resend if it's something that's important. I
Or
went
send it a different way.
a different way. Well, there are ways. You can tell WhatsApp to send full size. You can tell your iPhone and your Android to send full size. But I actually went back last year. I went on a quest to clean out my email, my regular personal email that I've had forever. And I started all the way at the end and I was sorting for attachments. And there were some photos in there that would have been nice to save, but they were stripped. They were gone, like you were saying. I think that has to do with the time limit. But then the others, I had just forgotten how small digital photos used to be. So I would pull them up, and I'm like, this is just not worth saving.
Right. Well, they were smaller when you took the originals back in the day, and when you
Hmm.
sent them via email, they were even further reduced oftentimes. So,
Yeah,
yeah, then they become almost unusable. But there are programs that will upscale
yeah,
your images as well. So if you've got one of those and you want to do something with it, sometimes there are programs that can help you improve the quality of the image.
yeah. I wouldn't bother doing that for everything, but I think if there is, a photo that's special, that's definitely worth doing. And it does. They do have some limits. If your photo is really low quality, there's only so far the upscaling can go before the AI might start to, especially if we're talking about faces,
Right.
where it will just go
Hallucinate.
run amok. It'll
Yeah.
hallucinate because it doesn't have enough information.
There's not enough data about the data. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I would do. And in fact, I would make it a practice moving forward when somebody sends you something in any format. If that's something you might want to save, try and get in the habit of clicking that little download button right when you're looking at it the first time.
Right. And it's also probably going to be saved with some gobbledygook file name.
Yeah.
So, if you give some context when you save it to your library at that moment, add a keyword or something, it'll help you in the future figure out maybe when it was taken.
Yeah.
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 Because all that data gets stripped.
Yeah. It's fun stuff. So I think that was fun. So so listeners, if you could shoot us an email or something and let us know if this was a success or if you thought, okay, that was awful and you turned it off halfway through. Well, if you turned it off halfway through, then you wouldn't hear this message. But if you did not enjoy it, but either way, because I thought it was kind of fun, maybe we'll do this again in 2026. Which reminds me, this is our last episode for 2025.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Been a
happy
great
New Year,
year.
everyone.
Yep.
Happy holidays and happy New Year.
Well, this one's coming out in December.
Yep. You'll be listening to this on December 1st. So yeah, maybe you'll play us while you're, celebrating your holidays, whatever it is that you do.
Maybe we should do some more for January 1st if we get good feedback. Well, we have a ton of questions here.
We have a ton of questions.
So we could do Jeopardy Part 2 for January.
Maybe. Yeah.
All right. Well, another one's in the can. Thank you, Allison. This was fun.
This was fun. Happy holidays, everybody. Happy New Year. And thanks for listening.
That's it for our show today. Remember, you can find this episode on all of your favorite podcast apps. Be sure to click follow so you can stay up to date with the latest in photo organizing. We'll catch you next month.